Welcome to the Mindful Movement series with First Ascents. My name is Tara with Love Yoga, and my First Ascents nickname is Sprinkles. I got involved with FD when I went on a rock climbing trip in Estes Park in 2018. And today I am here with Spudz. She's my helper for this yoga class, and she's going to go ahead and introduce herself.
My name is Mackenzie. My FD nickname is Spudz, and I got involved with FD in 2018 when I was hired as the Director of Programs.
And so she is the one that's up there in charge of all these awesome programs that you all get to go on. So I thought it would be awesome to bring her into this class to help. Also, when I was talking to Spudz, she told me that she was going through just a little bit of burnout, which is very common in life, right? Like anytime we're going through stressful times, we can start to feel burnout. And so when that happens, she was very self-reflective and realized that personal growth was a priority, and she signed up for a 50-day energy program. Yep. So she might tell you a little about that in a minute, but in that program, she did learn a lot about gratitude, and so she was a big inspiration for this class. It's called Gifts of Gratitude. So what are gifts of gratitude? They are things like joy and happiness and feeling more just vitality, raising vibrations in life, which just helps us to live life more fully, right? The energy program probably
Absolutely
helped you with that.
Yeah.
And so when we bring gratitude into our life, it actually decreases anxiety and stress and feelings like depression. And when that happens, it can increase your immune function. So it's actually a very practical skill. And how does this even work? So the science of gratitude is it creates more gray matter in the brain. So it's similar to meditation in that respect, where it creates space when our brain is actually really overactive and we're thinking all these thoughts, creating too much worry in our life. And so the gratitude gives us what we would call like a shot of dopamine or serotonin, which are these feel-good chemicals. So there's actual things happening inside the brain, which then helps us to feel better inside our bodies. But the thing is about gratitude is you have to train your brain. This doesn't happen naturally. We have to basically adopt an attitude of gratitude. And so how do we do that? It's definitely a choice, and it takes a little bit of work, and it's also worth it. The brain naturally has a negativity bias in life, and that's because it's trying to protect us. We're always seeking out like how we're trying to survive or reduce stress. We're striving for improvement to be better. And so the brain is thinking in those directions. However, we can then sometimes feel overburdened and overwhelmed with that. So that brings in this concept of duality. And duality is basically holding space for two opposing emotions or things at once. For example, sometimes it might feel hard to have gratitude because life is very challenging. And I know Spudz has experienced that through losing your brother to cancer.
Right. Yeah. I lost my brother to cancer in 2016.
And how did that then affect your life in general and impact your choices?
Yeah, I mean, with respect to gratitude, going through a loss is incredibly challenging, but I think the light at the end of the tunnel for me was ultimately using that as an opportunity to make different choices in my life. Mm-hmm. For example, choosing to make something good out of the experience by serving the oncology and the wider community through my work with First Ascents.
That's beautiful. I also lost my first husband to cancer, and that is what led to my work also with First Ascents and through yoga therapy, because when you start holding space for that challenge and realize I can still have gratitude for this relationship because it was so impactful, right? That relationship was so special. You would rather have loved and lost than
Never to have loved at all.
Exactly, yeah. And so that is also what has led us towards creating this lovely program for everybody, and in bringing alumni and staff into the videos, because cancer has impacted everyone's life here.
So many of us.
So many, and it's beautiful how everyone's not letting those challenges really get in the way of getting out on adventure and doing awesome things. So just going back to gratitude, mindfulness is a muscle. It's something that has to be used, and as I mentioned, gratitude is a choice. It's something to practice. There's this concept of neuroplasticity, so it's kind of sciencey term, but it just basically means that our brains are capable of changing. And so we can strengthen new neural pathways, I like to think of neural pathways of like if you're riding your bike on a trail and it's like you come across these like trees that are down, or it's not a well buffed out trail, you know, you're like, oh, I'm going kind of slow. And that's how it feels when something's not natural and not practiced for us in life. We're struggling through it. But the more we practice it, then it's like that single track on a bike is like really buffed out and you're moving through it and you're cruising, or maybe you find that line down a rapid if you're kayaking and you know, go just flow right on down. So that's changing your neural pathways. And we can do that with gratitude. So it's kind of like, using to feed your brain, we're going to give it the food of gratitude. And really there's nothing to lose. It just takes a little bit of practice. We're going to start with a meditation and setting intentions, and then we'll be using gratitude throughout the class and ending with a little meditation about gratitude as well. So hopefully by the end you'll feel more comfortable incorporating this in your life. All right, Spudz, we're gonna get started, and we're just gonna close down our eyes and do a brief just check-in with our bodies and our minds. So if it's comfortable for you at home to close your eyes, you can, or find a soft gaze, just looking at one point in front of you. Have a nice straight spine. You could do this actually laying down or seated. Just wanna have that energetic pathway open so the breath moves fluidly through the body. And start to just check in with yourself and notice where you may be holding any sort of pain or tension. Maybe you feel some worry. There could be anxiety or fatigue. Maybe there's even like some sadness going on, and that's okay. So just recognizing whatever comes up is mindfulness, and without judgment, because when you notice, then you can start to work through these things. And now just start to breathe in and out a little bit more smoothly, lengthening your breath. And see if you can breathe a little bit more into the back body. Oftentimes we're always breathing into the front of the chest, but seeing if you can push into your back ribs as well. Spudz had told me she had a little difficulty breathing into her traps, and so how does that feel for you, Spudz?
It feels a little tight. It's a little foreign to try to breathe in there, but good.
Okay.
When I give it some effort and concentration.
And that's that same concept of like things that we start to practice that are new, and they might be a little awkward at first, they may not feel quite right, but the more you do them, we're paving new neural pathways in the brain that tell us how, and also in the body. So just try a few more times, breathing in, pressing into the back and the front, and letting go. And we're going to start to bring in mantra, which is just thinking different thoughts to ourselves, repeating them in our brain. And so as you breathe in, you'll just say gratitude. And as you breathe out, just soften and let go. Imagine you're letting go of anything that doesn't serve you. And do that a few more times. Breathe in gratitude. Breathe out heaviness or negativity. Breathe in gratitude. And breathe out peace and presence. And this time we'll breathe in and smile. So curl the ends of your mouth up, and as you breathe out, let go of the bullshit. And do that again. Breathe in with a big smile. And breathe out, bullshit. One more time, breathing in, smile, breathing out, fuck that. Just letting go. Sorry. But see, like, that's the point. Look, we're just giggling, and doesn't that feel better?
It feels so much better.
So much better. You just gotta, like, let it go. And so that's the beautiful part about smiling and giggling, right? We just get it out, and we realize that maybe something shifts. Maybe you feel a little lighter and brighter. And gratitude is very similar to that. Just by thinking these thoughts that are more hopeful, sometimes our body doesn't really know the difference. It starts to naturally listen to what our brain tells it. So right now we feel better. They're smiling or giggling, and just notice that what happens if you bring a negative thought back into your mind, like something you're worried about, something that feels like you don't really want to be dealing with it. Maybe it's something you're sad, maybe it's pain. You may notice that your body tenses up, or you start to feel more down again. And then just bring your attention back to letting go of all the bullshit, and smile and notice what shifts. So we're bringing ourselves into that opposite feeling. And from this space, we're gonna set an intention of keeping gratitude for ourselves and our bodies, as well as the time that we're committing to this practice. All right, let's start to move. We can blink open the eyes. And we're starting seated, so maybe just crisscross your legs the opposite way, or if it's not comfortable for you to be seated, you can get into a chair and just put your feet flat on the floor, spine straight. We're gonna start with some gentle cat-cows here, inhaling, bringing the chest forward, squeezing shoulder blades back, exhaling to round the spine, tucking chin to chest. Good, and we'll do that 2 more times, inhaling and exhaling. Just getting some movement with the breath. We'll come back to a nice straight spine here. And then let's take our left hand down to the mat, or even to a block if you want it. And we're going to sweep the right arm up overhead. So Mac is showing you just how to side bend without the block, and you could have something like a book underneath. And we're gonna look under the right arm, reaching up and over, breathing into the side body. And then we're going to inhale, rise back up to center, placing the right hand down. And the left arm is going to skim the horizon, looking underneath. And how does this side feel for you, Spudz?
It's a little tight because I have a shoulder injury, but it's good to move.
Good, yeah. So she had a left labrum tear at one point, and still nurturing that, working through it, and just knowing that we have differences in the sides of our body, and movement is medicine and motion is lotion. So breathing, lengthening here, and still finding some softness. We'll inhale back to center. And let's just bring the arms back up to the sky on an inhale, reaching through the fingertips, spreading them wide. And then we'll exhale, cactus the arms. So squeeze shoulder blades together. And 2 more times, inhaling, lifting, lengthening, exhaling, to cactus, like goalpost arms. And one more time. These are really good heart openers. We opened the side body, opening the heart, which leads towards more gratitude. Even gratitude for the parts that feel sticky, right? Let's go ahead and bring our hands behind us, and you'll turn towards me. And you can kind of put the blanket to the side. We're gonna just put the hands behind and feet flat on the floor. And then press into the hands and feet and lift the hips up into a reverse table. And so this might feel a little sticky on that left side again. Then we're just going to lengthen the back of your head towards the back wall. So it's like you're lifting the crown, lengthening, and take 2 breaths here. And this could also be just simple opening of the chest. So if it's hard to lift up or put weight on your arms, that's okay. Just opening, and then exhale, lower all the way back down. And we're gonna swing the knees behind us and come into tabletop, like a regular tabletop. And I like to put a blanket under my knees. If you have wood floors at home, blankets are great. Towels, anything to pad the knees. If you have carpet, you might be okay. And then just stack your shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, and we'll take some cat-cows here. So inhaling, dip the belly, chest comes forward. Exhaling, press down, round the spine, tuck chin to chest. And as we're doing these, we'll feel that opening in the chest here in cow. And in cat, breathe into that back body. You're breathing out, pressing into the traps, and do that a few more times. All right, and then we'll start to even back out. And there's gonna be an option here to either take a downward dog or puppy pose. And so I'm gonna stay in puppy pose, which is just arms come out, head comes down, nice, release. You get the same activation in the shoulders, and Matt came into downward dog. Good. And so here she could even bend her knees a little at the start, and then pedal out 1 foot, so 1 foot at a time. Good, yeah. Just bending knees and then bringing the heel down to the mat. Beautiful. In puppy pose, you're just kind of hanging out here. You could even pulse. And we'll take 2 more breaths in whichever pose, knowing that there's also a wall option for this pose where you could go over and put your hands on the wall, head between the arms. All right, and then we're gonna just start to come back down to hands and knees and wiggle your way down onto your body. We're gonna come into a pose. It's known as pranam, or a bow to yourself. So arms are gonna come out in front, palms together, and just place your head down so the forehead's on the mat. And you can roll your forehead side to side. And this is a bow of reverence to yourself. So thinking of something you're grateful for, specifically about you, not just your life. What is it in your body right now that you are grateful for? And then we'll start to bring the hands down by the chest. And we're gonna come into some Cobra poses. So press down into your feet, really activate the knees, activate the lower back, and lift up slightly. Good. And then we'll exhale down. And so we're not trying to go too high here. It's just gentle lifts, lengthening through the crown of the head. So much activation in the lower back that you can actually pull the hands off the mat and stay here rather than trying to push into the mat and lift up, because that just cranks on the spine. Very good. And from here, we'll start to press up through hands and knees. You can take a child's pose if you'd like. Knees can come wide, or they can come together. So whichever is most comfortable. If they're together, you may feel more supported in the chest. And you can also bring them wider, allowing the arms to extend. Good. And if child's pose is not comfortable, there's a few things you can do at home. Like if you have a pillow, you could actually bring it behind the knees and then sit back on it, and it gives you a little more height so that when you come down, you may also put like a pillow under your head. You could put a pillow that you're like kind of hugging here and it's supportive, and that might make it more comfortable for you to stay for a while. And child's pose is going to be that resting pose to just give yourself a sense to reconnect with your breath before we start to move into our standing wave of postures. Mac, when you're ready, go ahead and just start to come back up to hands and knees and make your way to standing. You can move that blanket out of the way. We're gonna come into mountain pose first. So just bringing feet about like hip width distance apart or a little wider. And finding your sense of balance, maybe side to side, moving forward and back a few times. And then finding a sense of stillness. And we'll just sort of stack joint by joint, mindfully lifting up, shoulders kind of round back, lifting up through the crown of the head, and then tucking the chin back, releasing the jaw, keeping the belly slightly engaged so that you feel nice and active in this pose and you're standing strong like a mountain. One of our mindful moments is called Mindful Mountain, and it takes you into mountain pose joint by joint and through breath. So I encourage you to check that out. It's a mindfulness practice. And so here, we're going to do a few sun salutations now that we're feeling really grounded. So we're gonna move with our breath. And we'll go ahead and just shake out the arms. And then we're gonna inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. Smile as your palms touch. Exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Good, and then inhale, arms sweep wide and up. And as you exhale, we'll start to come into a forward fold. And just maybe a bend in the knees or gentle. You could have a block underneath you. And from here, just release the neck, shaking the head side to side gently. And then we'll slowly round as we roll back up, making sure you don't get too dizzy. Arms are gonna sweep up overhead as you inhale. And then exhale, pull your hands to your heart center. Good. We'll inhale, arms sweep wide and up. And then we'll exhale one more time, forward fold. Pausing for just a moment to let the neck release. Feeling a nice stretch in the hamstrings. And then we'll root down, slowly rise back up as you inhale. Arms will come overhead, palms touch, smile. Exhale, hands to heart center. And then we're gonna take our hands just right behind us. This is gonna be a standing camel, and so we'll come into regular camel later, but you know, this is one of Mac's favorites. Not really, but sometimes it's hard, but it's good because it opens the heart. And so here in standing camel, the main thing is we're going to bring the elbows towards one another. We're squeezing shoulder blades together, opening the chest, and we're also keeping the belly tucked up and in so that we're not letting the belly come forward too much. So feeling your roots, and just as much as is comfortable. And we're inhaling a few times and exhaling. And so when we open up our chest, it really it leads to more of an open mind. So open hearts and open mind. And what I notice is we're all kind of walking around like this because we're on computers a lot, or we're maybe protecting our hearts energetically from the challenges we're going through. So this could be a little vulnerable, and just allow it. Maybe emotions will come out, opening up the heart. Good. And then we'll let the arms go. How did that feel for you?
Good. It felt refreshing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have resistance towards a pose, but then it's maybe what we need the most, because we balance ourselves through the opposites and through what we resist, right? So.
And it helps with posture too, because sometimes, like you said, I can round a little bit.
Yeah, that's actually something you can do at any time. You could just bring your hands behind, gently open the chest, and you might find it brings you more energy when you're working and stuff. So. All right, so we're gonna move into something called breath of joy. Before we do that, we're gonna come into chair pose, just so we know what that feels like. So bend the knees. We're gonna keep the feet about hip width distance apart. And from here, as you sit back, you're also gonna bring your arms forward. So you have this counterbalance, reaching forward and sitting back. You're also gonna draw the core in a little towards the spine, and that might make your pelvis rotate under a little bit more. So it's a little bit of an awkward pose, but we wanna make sure the back is nice and straight here, rather than sticking the butt out, right? So it's nice and straight. And this is when we are going into breath of joy. We'll be coming into chair pose at the end. So you can go ahead and stand back up, and the way this works is it's gonna give you some energy. If you're feeling quite anxious right now, I would go through this very slowly, but it's a great breathing practice if you're wanting to increase energy, vitality, and bring some gratitude into the body. And so you're gonna just think of something you're grateful for and bring it into your head. And also think of something that you want to let go of. And then I'm going to show you how to do it first, and then we'll do it together. So we're going to inhale the arms up, inhale the arms out, inhale the arms up, and then this is where we come into chair pose. Exhale, letting go. And we're going to think of the thing we're letting go of as we do that. It's like ski racer, you know? Okay, so ready? Yeah. It feels really good after a few rounds, so we're gonna probably do 4 rounds of it. Perfect. All right, here we go. So think of that thing you're grateful for, and inhale, inhale, inhale. Exhale, let go of what doesn't serve you. Good, and then we'll inhale, inhale, inhale. Exhale, let it go. I like how you're sighing audibly, really letting go of all that bullshit. Good, and one more time. Even smiling on this last one. Good, let go. All right, and then we come back up. Do you feel good? Yeah. Do you feel a little tingly right now?
Yeah, and lighter.
And lighter, totally. I sometimes just do that. I'm like, all right, I've got to just get some stuff out of the body, move around. I think animals shake themselves out after stress. So that could bring some gratitude. If you're mentally having a hard time feeling the gratitude, then physically bring it into the body, and then it helps to maybe shift the mindset too.
Yeah, you could do it at any time. Really.
Anytime, yeah. All right, so from here, let's go ahead and you can face me. We're gonna come into a low lunge, and it's up to you if you wanna use the blanket. Your right leg's gonna be forward, and back knee will come down to start. You can do it standing if you prefer to do it, because we're gonna come into some gentle twists. So if you feel this is easy, I'll let you come into a crescent lunge too and model that. Okay, so feel grounded, and then we'll inhale, sweep the arms up, lift really tall, and feel grounded. And then from here, we're gonna inhale, and then exhale, open twist. So you're gonna go, yep, there, to that side, smiling for the camera. And then inhale, we'll bring the arms up. We'll do this 2 more times. And then exhale, open twist, gazing towards the front. And 1 more time. And good. And then we'll come back up. And we're gonna actually come into warrior 1 from here. So I'm gonna recommend bringing the hands down to support you. And then the back heel spins to a 45-degree angle. And we'll start to press up and use the back edge of your foot as like a brake. So it's gonna plug down and then the front knee comes over the ankle. Beautiful.
How far over does it go?
So the good question, you want it to be so the knee is right above the ankle. You don't want to go too far over because that starts to hyperextend. But if this is challenging, you can shorten your stance or always make it wider as well. But you look really great there. And I like to so you'll bring your left arm up first and start to square that hip. Good. And then the right arm will meet it. As you find your sense of rooting, you'll also root to rise and lift tall. Then you'll inhale, so they spread the fingers. Exhale, we'll do the cactus again. But keep the arms flowing down and around so it's a big circle. And then inhale forward and up. Beautiful. So we're going for a full range of motion here. And one more. Big circles. Does that feel okay in your shoulders?
Feels amazing.
Good. Yeah. We'll just like clasp the hands behind now and see how that feels, because this is similar to Camel. So we're clasping, we're pulling the knuckles down, and I'm keeping my elbows slightly bent so that I don't hyperextend them. Just breathing into the chest, opening the heart again, and feeling gratitude in your heart, reminding yourself of that intention, being grateful in your body. Very good. And then from here, we're gonna let the arms go. And I'm gonna you might wanna grab your blocks, coming into a pyramid pose. So front leg's gonna be straight, but the back foot's still down. And I like the blocks. They could be on any height, or you could have water bottles or books, because you can press into them and then use your hips to kind of even out. I'm pushing back into that right hip. So your right hip is gonna push towards that back wall. And you can keep a flat back here if you get dizzy with your head below your heart, or you could fold down towards your front leg. And just take a few mindful breaths here, stretching into your hamstring. Anytime we come into some kind of forward fold, we start to down regulate a little bit. So energy was kind of high, and now it's gonna balance back out towards the long edge of your mat. So your toes are gonna come towards center. And we're gonna come into something called goddess pose. So toes go out and heels in, and then it's like a sumo squat. And you're pressing into the outer edges of your feet, really feeling activation in the inner thighs. And you have this like nice, up and down. I like to bring my hands to heart center. And take a few mindful breaths here. So we're opening the hips. Hips also hold a lot of emotion and stress. So trying to open up the inner thighs and hips. We're going to come into a 5-pointed star. So as you inhale, you're gonna bring your arms up, straighten the legs, and do some sprinkles of gratitude. Good. Exhale, hands to your heart center. And smile as you inhale, lifting up, sprinkling the fingers. And then exhale, hands back to your heart. We'll do that one more time. Inhale, up. Good, and exhale, down. From here, we'll just straighten the legs, and we're gonna turn you'll go towards the back side of your mat, and we're gonna drop into a low lunge here. So we're gonna do that whole sequence this way, and you can actually, do it with a high lunge if you prefer. Arms are gonna lift towards the sky, find your sense of balance. And then you're going to exhale, open twist. So you're gonna go to your left. Good. Then inhale, lift up, and exhale. One more time. And opening up the arms. Arms sweep back up to the sky as you inhale. Exhale, bring the hands down to frame your foot. And we're gonna bring that back heel in a little bit. So warrior one time, 45-degree angle. And I usually just rise back up with my legs straight, find that sense of rooting, and then start to press into the front knee, making sure it's right above the ankle, not too far over. And then you'll start to bring that right arm up first, squaring your hip towards the front wall. Left arm will follow. And so finding your breath here. These warrior poses, they bring us a sense of strength and empowerment because they can be challenging. There's a lot of activation, but as we breathe into the pose, we realize that we are stronger than anything that feels limiting in our life. So let's do those arm circles again, Spudz. Inhaling, lifting and lengthening. Exhale, cactus the arms. Keep the arms flowing back, down and around as you inhale. And then exhale, cactus. Big circles opening the chest. Back down and around. Inhale, back up. And open chest, open heart, open mind. And then arms come back up. Straighten that front leg. And then we'll start to come into pyramid. And maybe that back foot comes in a little bit. And maybe if you want to use those blocks again, you can. Got some too. And so putting the blocks on any height. Lengthening the spine and pressing your hip back. So it'll be your left hip pressing back towards the wall, evening them out, and breathing into that hamstring. Maybe coming into a little bit more of a forward fold, releasing tension in the head and neck. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And then we'll slowly rise back up. And go ahead and drop down to your knees. You could actually take a downward dog here if you'd like. I'm gonna take a child's pose, or you could take a child's pose as well. So it's whatever feels good to you. We're just basically coming out of our standing wave. We wanna recalibrate. Whatever's gonna allow you to come back into your breath. We're gonna have more grounding effect if you come into child's pose. Downward dog's a little more strengthening, so it's what do you need right now? Not always about what you can do versus what you maybe want to do or what you need to do. And then from here, we'll drop down to the knees and come into Spudz' favorite pose. So Camel, go ahead and face the front so we can show everyone what you got. I'm going to put a block between my legs because, yeah, you can just use whichever one. It like goes in between. You're gonna have inner thigh activation here, which is very important so that otherwise sometimes our legs splay out and the spine isn't as safe. And from here, toes, I like to keep the toes tucked just so that you have a little leverage there if that's comfortable. And from here, we'll take one arm up to the sky, other arm up. And we'll start to just bring one arm back and the other arm back. So it's similar just to when we were doing the standing camel. And we'll inhale, bring the elbows together, shining the chest through. And so from this view, we're drawing the belly up and in, just like what we did standing. Gaze is ahead. And you might start to look up towards the ceiling, finding a more of an arch in the back. Good. Sometimes people put their hands on their ankles, but we're not gonna go that far because it's not necessary. You can get a really big opening here simply by gazing upward as much as is comfortable for you. How does that feel to you, Spudz?
It feels pretty good. Not sure I could go any further.
Perfect, we don't have to. Good. We'll start to come back up. And that wasn't so bad, was it?
No, I liked it.
Good. Yeah, sometimes we just have to go towards the path of most resistance and break through it, and it feels more open. It's not so bad. Which sometimes gratitude might feel like a path of resistance too, because it's like, how could I possibly have gratitude when I'm dealing with all this stuff? But when we do it, you realize you feel better, right? And it just takes that training of the brain. All right, let's go ahead and come down into like a figure 4 shape, and or it could be half pigeon. So there's different ways. Half pigeon is where one knee sort of tucks in, and my heel is, you know, kind of like at this little angle here. And then you start to lower down. There's also figure 4, which I will show. I'm starting with the right knee, and I'm just gonna hook it, my ankle over my left knee, and that allows me to just open up the chest, press into my hands, and feel into the outer hip. And so if you have maybe some tweaky things going on in your knee, I would recommend starting with this figure 4 stretch. There's also the version where you could come onto your back and have the knee bent, ankle hooked, and lay there, or even thread the needle. So lots of options here. All of them are going to get into your outer hip. And so a nice, smooth, mindful breathing. I'm gonna come back up to seated because this feels best to me. And we'll take 2 more breaths here before we switch sides. So it's kind of like the opposite stretch as when we were in that big goddess pose, sumo wrestler, opening up the hips. Now we're working into the outer hips. All right, and slowly lift back up. Then we'll switch sides. So coming into figure 4 on the other side.
This feels amazing.
Does it? I know, right? Like everyone, I feel like, needs to get into these outer hips more.
Yeah.
There's not many stretches that, because obviously it's a little awkward to stretch into them. Yeah.
But it feels so good.
Yes. And so anytime you're doing these like adventurous activities such as rock climbing or hiking, and you're getting out in nature, there's a lot of like linear motion, and we need to open up the hips in different angles in order to work it back out. And energetically, as I mentioned, it also can release emotions. We hold a lot in our hips. All right. And we'll slowly start to come back up. And we're going to just face the front and take a seated twist. So maybe scoot back and place one leg straight, and then the right leg's gonna come over the left. And this front leg can be straight or it can be bent behind you. So it's like really whatever's most comfortable here. And then you're gonna take the left arm up, look over and twist, looking over the right shoulder, lengthening the spine as you inhale and exhale. So a few more breaths here. And we're gonna try to do something called a switcheroo, which I didn't tell you about, so we'll see how it goes. But you're gonna see if you can, since you're straight, you're gonna bring your hands over to the left. You're gonna lift up and go all the way around. No, it's fun to try though. And then you switch back to the other side. Yeah, I know, I've done it a few times. So your legs are straight or are curved, and then lifting up through the right arm, twisting over to the left. And just breathing, lengthening on inhales and exhales, gazing over the shoulder. And it is more intense if your knee is bent here. You can have your legs straight. It's a little less intense, so just feeling into the body. And we'll come back around to center. And last pose before our resting pose is bridge pose. So you're gonna come down onto your back. Knees are gonna be bent and right above the ankles. And then your hands are gonna be down by your sides. Arms are nice and long. And start to bring your heels a little towards the hips so they're nice and close. You're gonna press down into your feet, into your hands. Inhale, lift the hips high. Activating the inner thighs here as though you're squeezing a block, which I'm gonna put one between your legs. Yeah, notice how that kind of changes.
Makes it more challenging, but better alignment.
Exactly. It's less about how high we get, more about keeping everything engaged. And from here, see how it feels to just float your arms up overhead. Yeah, there you go. And get a little more. I know that shoulder flexion's difficult for you, but it might feel good. Yeah, and then we'll exhale, bring the arms down. And then you'll slowly start to just bring your spine down, one vertebrae at a time. Beautiful. Good job. I'll take the block, and as you come into Shavasana, I'm going to see how it feels. I'm going to give you this blanket, and would you like to put a blanket roll underneath your spine to open your heart? Okay, so that will go like from the lower back. Well, we'll do it more this way. Here we go, lengthwise. And head will rest on the top. Yeah, and I'm even gonna give you one for under your knees because that feels nice too. There you go. So just relax. And as you're lying there, just start to scan your body and notice what feels more open. Maybe notice if there's any resistance that's crept in or any emotions that have come up that you aren't sure what they mean, which is totally normal. And if there is something that feels like it's creeping back in, any of that doubt or the worry, start to draw your attention towards, we're gonna think of 3 things that we're grateful for. And the first one is the person you are becoming. So thinking about who you are right now and all you've been through and what it's led you to in your life. That idea of using those challenges to bring you into more of this new path in life. One that you can hold the challenge and the gratitude for that challenge side by side. Allow that to resonate. Notice how you feel physically in your body. And then also think of how far you've come. So sometimes challenges feel a little bit like setbacks and might make us feel as though we haven't accomplished something, when in reality, it's quite the opposite. You've accomplished even more. Especially while navigating something like cancer or an ongoing illness like MS, for caregiving for somebody, or if you're one of our healthcare workers and you're on the front lines of all of the stuff going on with the pandemic, or also helping others to navigate their own challenges. Just notice how far you've come. Have gratitude for that. And the last one is to have gratitude for what you already have in life. Thinking of all those things that maybe we take for granted sometimes, but they are big things, because oftentimes those little things we find out are the big things later. Knowing that when you reward your life with gratitude, then life will give you more to be grateful for. So bringing gratitude into your life often makes you feel even more gratitude in return. It's kind of contagious. So as you start to deepen your breath now, you'll invite a little more energy into your body, movement in fingers and toes and wrists and ankles. And use this awakening out of our Shavasana or corpse pose to almost see it as a rebirth and to begin again so that you can start to come back into your day with more energy, with more gratitude. Maybe take some stretches here, arms overhead, reaching fingers to toes. And then bend your knees, start to roll onto one side. And you'll gradually push your way up to a seated position. When you feel ready, and there's no rush, you can always stay longer in Shavasana. And so as we close our practice, we'll just bring our hands to heart center in a gesture of gratitude. When we say namaste, it simply means that the light and love in us honors the very same light and love in each of you as part of our community. So namaste. Now, before you go, I have a few takeaway tips. So if this wasn't enough, then these are some things that you can do throughout just life and each day. Mindfulness is really what reveals our thoughts, our actions, our feelings. We just acknowledge those things without judgment. And when we're mindful of how we're showing up, we can do something about it. So if that maybe anxiety or worry or negativity creeps in and you think, oh, I know gratitude is something I can now practice, then you can use that as maybe adopting that attitude of gratitude, knowing it's a choice, putting down on sticky notes like I am grateful for, and then having that sticky note on your mirror, bedside table, just so it's like the first thing that comes to mind when you look at yourself or when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed. A gratitude journal is very powerful. It's something you could just write down like 5 things you're grateful for each day and bring that into practice. Or sometimes I just like to do it in bed. So it's like, doesn't really take any extra time. It's just, oh, I'm gonna think of 5 things I'm grateful for before I get out of bed right now. Breathe a few mindful breaths, and then you start your day with this more positive thinking rather than, oh, I gotta get up and this is challenging. And then just notice the shifts that happen when you do these things. And you'll start to pave those new neural pathways, and you'll realize that your brain is malleable and that you can do all of these things with kindness to yourself. Thank you for joining us today.